We are live. Give me 1 second to do a little administrative thing, but I want to officially, publicly thank you all. We kind of took a little hiatus. Um, I needed a social media break. So thank you for being on our first official show back in 2023. And just so the listening audience knows who we have on tonight, you can kind of like do a little semi introduction of yourself.
And with that being said, we'll start with Miss D. James. D. James, introduce yourself for the people.
Hey guys. Good night. I'm Dee. I was wrangled.
Yes, I'll admit.
into being here tonight to support my sissy. So
She said wrangle,
to be
people.
here.
She used the word wrangle. She got wrangled into the show. All right, everyone. Here again, Pinky. No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Me? No, Eve.
No. You're coming on the line.
Oh, hi. Good night, everybody. It's just Pinky. Eve, you next.
Oh, my gosh, Pinky. All righty then, guys. We have another new face, Miss Eve Roger Key.
I'm not a new face. But yes, Eve Rogers Key, aka Peaches, for my Crucian friend them. But my real name is Evadne. I just got tired of being called evidently. So it's Eve.
Woo! I want to sing again. Say your name again. You like your government name. Like
Evadne. Evadne.
But I know her as Peaches.
See, you see what I mean? It takes a while, right?
That is a unique name.
So Eve is good. Eve as in Adam, but without the apple.
Evadne.
I like
Yeah, I
that.
get it. I can see how that can go wrong. All right, guys, and you know already.
And what about you? Who are
It's
you?
your guy. It's your guy. Mr. Ronchi. XXL, St. Martin.
What's your government name, Ranchi Raj?
Ronchi's government name is Ronchi.
I remember the first time you came out, I could not, I wasn't.
Yeah. It was.
Getting
It
your
was
government
Ryan.
name. Yes.
All right, but yeah, 2023 people name is Ryan. Ryan.
Jeez.
Doesn't look like a Ryan, more like a Ronchi. So we're gonna go with Ronchi, guys.
Well,
not RAUNCHY, but RONCHI.
Exactly.
There we
That's
go.
what I'm talking about. Well, good night, everybody who is joining in. Like I said, we kind of took a little, I don't know, like a 4-week hiatus, just to kind of regroup, take some time off, and we are back. And so we thank everybody. I just wanted to publicly say that we need to get our subscribers up on our YouTube channel because, as most people should know, Facebook sometimes does very different things. And so we not only air in the Facebook Love and Enlightenment group on our personal page, but we also air on our YouTube channel, Love and Enlightenment USVI. So please go over there, even if you don't watch over there, and subscribe and like the show. Also wanted to say, I'm from Mid-Island on St. Croix, but tonight I got a gift. And so I'm representing the West Gill. They have shirts, but we need a Mid-Island shirt. Okay, so I see we have East Girl and West Girl, but I'm a Mid-Island girl. I think Eve is out West. Yeah. So tonight the discussion is on Carnival. And whether a lot of the things that took place were inappropriate or culture, because we always hear the term, we're doing it for the culture. And after the parade, which was the last day of events for the most part. There was a lot of dialogue online about the attire in the parade. And so, and it wasn't just the attire, it was also the behavior with the attire, coupled with the attire. And so I saw so many, posts in regards to it. And we had actually talked about this, Pinky and I, like the week before, because our carnival in St. Croix is literally like a 4-week span of festivities, from the beginning of December through the first week in January. So we had already been seeing some things and said that we wanted to possibly tackle this conversation. So
we were watching the parade.
yeah,
We watched the parade. We watched the parade together. We went to village every night together. And this week, I'm
Virtually.
very tired from all the parading and villaging that I do last week with you guys. I like totally tired, sleeping early because I was like, Massa, I've been in the village every night, Massa. My friend was like, you in the village again? I was like, yeah, man.
Virtually.
I had me a ball.
Yeah.
I just want to say I had me a ball this year. So
we really wanted to tackle it because
look at the other face.
It was
Go ahead.
For me, I honestly have not been to Carnival at home for a long time. I've been to Miami Carnival, I think like 6 years ago. But I haven't been home to attend a carnival in 10 years. But I watch it, online or whatever. And I've seen the progression over the years, of just a lot of things that are taking place in a parade we're talking about the parade for right now, that is just a little different than what I'm accustomed to. And I have to be frankly honest that my plan was to come home, but I was not able to come home. And I was going to bring my grandson with me and my bonus boys, who are 8 and 10. And I know unequivocally they would not have attended, which is sad because I want, especially my grandson, I really want him to know his culture, to know his roots. And it was not something that I would have brought him to. So I want to put it out to the guests. What were your thoughts on the carnival, the parade, the festivities? Because of course it wasn't all negative. But what were your thoughts of the event?
Before we start with the thoughts of the event, let's start with what is culture. Define culture.
Right. So the definition, yeah, of course, everything has many definitions, right? But one of the definitions of culture is shared beliefs and values of a group. The beliefs, customs, practices, and social behavior of a nation or people. And also, let me give a definition of carnival, right? Mm-hmm. Carnival, a period of public revelry. Revelry is like lively and noisy festivities, right? At a regular time each year, typically during the week before Lent in Roman Catholic countries, involving processions, music, dancing, and the use of masquerade. So I know I'll start with Ranchi because you are in St. Martin. And you all do have your own carnival. And what are your thoughts on some of the videos or pictures that you saw from the male perspective?
Carnival was turn up. I got to St. Martin to turn up. A lot was going on. From Ranchi watching all your videos and things like that. I ain't gonna talk about my carnival, our carnival,
Well, you could talk about yours too, like what?
It's the same. Carnival is carnival around the world, Everybody does do it their way. Every country, every island, everybody got a way of doing the carnival. St. Martin is a melting pot of everybody. So everybody is involved. So you got a full melting pot of everything happening. So you get that flavor of how everybody else, just do their thing. But yeah, I carnival will turn up. It looked like a.
But you
looked
didn't have
like
nothing
a
to
wall.
compare. You
Are
didn't
you
have nothing to
Carnival?
compare it with, Ranchi, right? You didn't have the like this. You saw our carnival, but you didn't have no history of our carnivals to compare it with, right?
No, me know our carnivals before this one that I watch. And just for the viewers that like listening, like I ain't watch all of our carnival, you know, like there are little snippets of it. So yeah, I ain't knocking out. Our thing look like our thing, and like many other islands, them and Miami and Europe thing them. So yeah, it was fun. It had look fun. I'm a fetter. I'm a jammer. So it was popping. It was lit. It was turn up.
Oh,
So
Papa,
A
yeah.
lot of people said it was, and this was the first carnival since COVID, since 2019. So a lot of people attended. A lot of people were involved in it. The troops were so huge that it was like you didn't know this necessarily the separations because they were so large.
Yeah.
So definitely
Dear,
there was.
go ahead. Go ahead. I wanted to say something.
Go ahead.
Not Ranchi. We define carnival, we define culture, right? And this lady, Marie, I think, yes, Marie Williams, she mentioned it was not cultural. And that's the topic that everybody's saying, like it was not cultural, right?
Right.
So I want to ask Deanna, I want to ask Eve, I want to ask you guys, when you think of Crucian Carnival, what do you think when you hear culture? What are you looking for in culture? Deanna?
So I'll say I guess I'm the only one of everybody here today who was actually there.
I was there.
In person, in flesh.
Right.
And you know, when we talk about culture, I think there's, you know, everybody has their own definition. Where I sit in it, and I'm very fortunate to sit where I sit with people who are seeking to build some scholarship around what culture is for the Virgin Islands. And I think that that's like a distinction that everybody has their own concept and perspective of what culture is to them. I have sought to actually build some real scholarship around what culture is, and leaning on the organizations, local organizations, nonprofits that are working really hard, and historians who are working hard to make sure that our story is told and to preserve, archival information around what culture has been here in the Virgin Islands. Of course, culture is always evolving, but it's I'm really blessed that I was connected to some groups, in particular Crucian Cultural Group, that are doing things like bringing back the Lantern Parade. They had a tree lighting ceremony in Limerick Park. Participating in the serenades with Stanley. So for me, those are the things that represent what our Crucian, Three Kings Day parade used to be historically. And that for me is the best representation of culture for me.
So when you said that it wasn't cultural, what would you use some examples of that?
Well, it wasn't cultural. When you say it, I didn't say it wasn't cultural. I just say that I didn't say it wasn't cultural. I just say that I think people define culture. I heard people saying that what was happening, and I can tell you, I'll just be really personal on my end. I probably will not attend a parade again anytime soon, because that's not what for me personally, that's not what I go. And I was very excited early on that Debbie would be here, and our little one, the next generation, would be here and be able to participate in all of it. And very, very clear that is not the case. that there, the appropriateness of the actual adult parade for children has diminished significantly over the years, and that's just my personal opinion. And we used to go to adult parade. We used to go to children parade. There was no distinction for us, even though there was like the children were involved primarily in the children's parade. There were oftentimes children in the adults parade historically. But as the event has evolved over the years, I question the appropriateness for children to be in attendance at all or participating in the parade. And that was my assessment, having been, on the sidelines.
So, Eve, you're next. What do you think? Same questions.
Okay. I mean, when we talk about culture, you're really dealing with the customs of a place, the whole societal structure, the arts, the institution of a place, and the Virgin Islands in general, St. Croix in particular. We've always had a pride about the culture of the Virgin Islands, to the point where things like quadrille, the Mokojumbi, these are like institutions whereby you have people teaching the next generation how to do it. To the point I was speaking to Willa John one time, and I was asking him about why you can't see the Mokojumbi face? Mm-hmm. And he said, no, culturally, even back in Africa, that is the way that they perform, right? Mm-hmm. It's like a whole spiritual aspect to it. And they're very proud of it. They honor that tradition. And when they train new people, they teach them that, right? Now, I don't want people to think we just they're here old heads and we stuck in whatever generation we came from and we don't want to see progress. And what irks me is when they use the words, this is our culture and our tradition. I mean, I saw a reply to a local who also voiced, shame at what she saw. And this guy came on and just literally cursed her. Your mother saw, stay home if you don't want to come, So, yeah, I was really offended by it. I loved the color. I loved the revelry, the music and that kind of stuff. And it took me back because I come from a family that's steeped in parades. My grandmother, Evadne Peterson, had her own troupe for over 40 years. And she used to last minute sew up all kind of loose fabric and stick it, and whoever is there pin it up and push you in the parade and things like that. Those were the days when you really saw parade. And it wasn't about focusing so much on the flesh, it was focusing on the beauty of what you were depicting.
Right.
And the contests and things like that, the themes, that's when they really, really took it to heart. I mean, one main thing I noticed, and it was a beautiful picture that somebody showed, maybe from a drone, but the King Street was full of people. All you could see in the middle was these semi-trucks after semi-trucks after semi-trucks. And I said, where are the floats? There were no floats. It was just hundreds and hundreds of people just jamming up all together. It almost looked like a juve. So, yeah, I was troubled about that in terms of where I see Crucian Christmas Festival heading, and in comparing it to a lot of other, well, we could talk about that later. But yeah, that's my take on culture.
Yeah, there was no floats. That's the one. Not if there was, it wasn't much. And there was trucks with people on it. I when me and Debbie were watching it, and my other friend, when Misha and Beverly watching it, and for me it was a shocker because I have not seen one of our parades in years. The last time I've been to a parade was 24 years ago. My baby gonna be 24, and I was pregnant with she. And I was to the children parade with my kids. And my doctor was like, hey, I hope you're going tonight, because her birthday is the 14th. He was like, hey, I hope you're going tonight. And I was like, I hope not, because you got a cup there in your hand, you know? That was our conversation.
Right.
But so I haven't been to one for years. And the last time I was to a parade up here, that was 8 years ago. And when I was 8 years ago, I saw the costumes that they have in now with the G-string and stuff. And I was like, wow, because I did not know that this is the attire of the parade. So let me put out it. But when I think about culture, I think about everything. I think about, so I watch some parades, right? So I could get a distinction, because everybody was saying we're moving more to the Brazilian and the Trinidad, and that's what we're seeing. Like, we're trying to be more like other cultures and not our own culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at the other parades to do a comparison, I didn't find that to be the case. I don't find us trying to be like them. And I'm gonna say why. I did see our culture represented in the parade. I saw the mokojumbis, I saw our fabrics, I saw our cloths, right? Because when I think of culture, I think of food, I think of music. It's like Diana said, we had Stanley. I didn't see steel pan. I don't know if it was steel pan in the adult, but I didn't see steel pan. So, but we did have Stanley, and we did have our local music, right? Because our local music ain't soca, our local music is calypso. And so I saw that we had our music, we had our juve. And so to me, when I think of carnival or festival, I think of a time, I think of the whole entire thing, right? I think of the juve, the village, I think of everything, right? And what was happening was a lot of us was excited to come home. I was trying to come home, but I just couldn't afford it. And I didn't want to afford it. I didn't want to spend the money. So I was like, I'm not going to spend that kind of money, and I'm going to just pass. But watching the parade, I was excited, because I was like, wow, next year I'm going home. I'm going to get my ticket early from summertime. Debbie was saying the same thing. So there was an air of proudness. I felt we were feeling proud, but then the conversation shift. Now, yes, there was a lot of dancing and walking up, but to me, that is a part of what I have always seen in Carnival. That's what I've always seen in Juve. So I asked people who was always a part, like my twin sister, she was more into, because I left home when I was younger. So when we had 17 plus violators, born in flames, our parents were feeling that way about our generation shifting from their generation. So I asked them, like, why we're dancing? They were like, no, we used to dance the same. We just had more clothes on. And I was like, oh, okay, well, because I wasn't, I just asking in general, but a lot of people was displeased with what they had saw with the dancing and stuff like that. But I would not blame it on the people. I would blame it on what we've seen, what we're seeing, and what is accepted today in the world as a whole. We are talking about body positivity. We talking, and I pop some, because that's our culture. Really and truly, the dancing and the walking up, that is our culture. I'm sorry to say. We are from African descent. We don't dance with the movement of the hips and the waist. And Europeans told us that our dances was vulgar. When I compare our clothes, I think the clothes get less and less because of the heat of our environment. Because when I compare it to places like Brazil and them places, their clothes, some of them, but they don't have on costumes too. So to say we just like them is not being depicted it properly, because they don't got full body costumes too. They don't got full floats too. And you also see that in Trinidad. So I don't know if it's necessarily to blame the people, but overall, like, I think we need to start to be moving in a different direction, in the sense, like Diana said, to make this thing bigger for our people. Now, I mentioned the Children Parade and stuff like that. I think we have Children Parade and we have Adult Parade. There's certain things we should not be seeing in Children Parade. But I think we also have to be mindful that adult parades is adult, and adults also need to enjoy themselves, a part of the culture. The culture isn't just for children. The culture is for everybody. People coming from all over the world, they come into and we coming home. We don't come home and we don't be happy to come home to be a part of our festival. We want to come home and eat the food. We want to we want to enjoy ourselves. So for me, I understand what you're saying about bringing home your kids and not bringing them home. But I think we need to now start to figure out how to separate the PG from the rated R. Instead of not
That
being
was not rated R. That wasn't rated R.
Well, if you bring home little guy, then maybe he come to the children parade, because to not be a part of the culture at all will kill our culture. We have to find a solution to the problem and not just kill the culture, period, and say, well, we ain't gonna be a part of it.
Right. I mean, that's inevitably, we're not here to bash. We are here to find a way to make it so that it comes back to what it was about: family, about community, about getting together, enjoying ourselves, but not having to feel like we're at a strip show. But I'm not like, I get the whole adult and children's parade, but I didn't have a problem with taking my children to an adult's parade when they were small.
But maybe now we can't. And maybe that's, or maybe, because when I look at the other carnivals, people had on full costumes. People were investing in full costumes and floats, right? So maybe we just need to start to shift our parade in different direction, like opening up them doors, like making those suggestions, because maybe we just left it. And then again, it was the first carnival since COVID.
So let me ask you a question, Pinky. Let me ask you a question. Have you had any conversation? Was there any scholarship? I use that word. The word that Austin uses all the time that I love. Was there any scholarship around how you have shared culture, whatever culture? And there is a distinction between culture and heritage, and culture does evolve over time. That there's no question about it, and it is inclusive. But has there been any scholarship around how you have shared culture, this culture thing, with the next generation? Like, do your children have any sense of what the festival was based on your last recollection of an experience of Crucian Festival?
Well, all we have is internet, right? So Carnival.
No. I'm just saying. Like,
yes. Like, so my son, I say, hey, go on Facebook. I posted on my page, the parade on my page, because his girlfriend is Brazilian.
Yeah.
I supposed go on the page so I could watch the parade, so you could see the parade. Like, my children were raised Crucian and American, but they were raised more Crucian because I's their mother. Yeah. We used to come home every year. Not every year. We came home. We only used to come home for Christmas. Mm-hmm. But we couldn't stay to the parades. That's why I never was to the parade, because they had to be back to school before. And the parade first was separated. So we could do Chiram. But when the parade became together, we couldn't stay. Like, when I had parade, our schools were done open already. So we use what we have. But yes, the children them grow up engrossed in their culture the best way they could, being away from St. Croix.
So I only asked that question because I think there's a link in the chain that I think has not been considered, which is that those of us who are old and have this like outdated perspective, haven't done our due diligence to ensure that we pass our traditions, our customs on to the next generation. And so when they are saying this is our culture, they are right. They are actually right. That is their culture. That is their culture. Whether it is the Crucian Christmas Festival culture, that is left to be, determined. But I think there's a disconnect in that we have not, and this, like I always say that everything is connected to everything is connected to everything. Mm-hmm. And so we can sit here and have a conversation about the appropriateness of what was happening at the adult parade. And I don't care. The costumes were less of an issue for me than how the behavior. And I connect what I saw with data on the demographics on the welfare of children and young people in our community. I can't separate it. I can't watch hypersexuality and not think about what impact that has on children in our community who are already disadvantaged and vulnerable. So for me, we can live like Americans live and just say that's not my problem. I want to have fun. This is about me and like me. Or we can think as a village and as a community, like how are we raising up the next generation and what are we teaching them? All of us are teachers. And so what is the lesson we're teaching them? And is that lesson okay? Is it a lesson that is aligned with who we are today and then who we seek to be in the future? And so that for me is part of like how I sat in that, like at the parade, like, is this?
I don't know if I would say that they following American culture. I would say they following Caribbean
ideology. It's not.
No. I'm not saying culture. I said ideology. The ideology that what I do
ideologies.
Is my business, and I am only responsible for myself. That is an Western way of thinking. An Afrocentric way of thinking is thinking of the village. How is the least of us? How is my behavior impacting the rest of my village? And that for me is a very different way of thinking. And I think, when young people or people who enjoyed, all of it, and there were lots of pieces of it that were amazing, and you can never get enough of it. But the pieces of it that I think we're talking about here tonight are the pieces that we have to think about, like, if that is their culture, then yes, they're right. And is that the culture that we want to advance as a people, as a territory? And I always think about like what makes us distinctive, right? What is always like every place. Brazil is very distinctive. Trinidad is distinctive. They have like real ownership of what they consider to be their heritage and their culture. And I think of like, for some reason, we in the Virgin Islands are like, that's what it was before, and it could be anything, and it like there's no real ownership. And the reason there's no ownership is because we have not done due diligence to make it part of, number one, our curriculum, part of how we rear up and bring up our children. And because we live in probably all the Caribbean islands, the most transient of all, where people are moving in and out. And so what we have now is that I think a result of the fact that so many Virgin Islanders are not here anymore, right? So their perspective of culture is shaped by where they have moved on to, what they're seeing where they are. And that sort of, comes back to influence what becomes our sort of, prevailing culture here in the Virgin Islands. And I think that that's part of like, to me, I love this conversation because I think it's long overdue, and I think it's an important one. And I think every voice has a place in this conversation, but I think it's a necessary one for us to have at this point. And I think the hypersexuality of the carnival is absolutely something that needs to be discussed. It's not not from a space of judgment, but a space of like, what is it? Is this like how we want to be presented, or how we want our, and I don't care, like, I'm really honest about this. I am very concerned about Black women and their, like, just how they are represented and presented in the world. And for me, that is where I sit in this. I'm not apologetic about that. And how, what dangers may be afoot that we are not considering because of that hypersexuality and what our young men are being exposed to because of it. And I just think that that's, from a sociological standpoint, I think it is something that we should be talking about.
And I want to also say, I think what was very concerning for me, and again, a lot of these things I have seen the progression of it, right? But what was very concerning to me, considering we had the majority of the costumes showing hardly anything to the imagination, then you have people bent over in the camera, right? My concern is, we're talking about some of these people that are in there are teachers of people's children, right? So now you go to school and you want to demand respect from your students, and you can only imagine what some of the talk is, right? And then you get upset. Or someone is in the parade and their son's friends see that son's mother, and they get in a tit for tat. And then the next thing you know, they're saying, oh, but I saw your mother this and I saw your mother that. And what happens? So again, people say like, well, I'm going there to fet and have a good time. And I'm always talking about we have got to wake up and be more intentional about the things we do, because it is relational. You might be going down that street thinking you're having a good old time. You got this, performing however you're performing, and you're not thinking about, like Deanna said, the village and how it affects the walk of life for yourself, for your family. Like, I can't even imagine if I was a man and my daughter's in the thing and my friend them saying, Miss Sawa, watch your daughter. Like, I just don't understand how that is like.
But then I understand. So my question is this:
choice, like women having choice to sort of to express themselves how they want to, and I understand that piece of it, and that is that's a relevant conversation to have. There's no question that we should be having that conversation. I'm just telling you what I saw.
My question. Go ahead, Deanna.
What I saw, not what I heard about, what I saw a glimpse of, what I saw is, I'm not sure what I like. I don't understand getting in front of the viewing stand, turning around and twerking. I don't. It's not even twerking. It's not
at the governor.
It's something else in front of the reviewing stand with our dignitaries, quote unquote dignitaries. I'm not sure what that like. I'm honestly, I sit here honestly just confused. I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure what that representation is. I can tell you, as someone who didn't leave the Virgin Islands, who is still here, trying to make a difference and trying to make it better so that y'all could come back and visit and have fun.
Thank you, Deanna. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. And taking my blows while I'm here. That I am not sure that that's what is part of my fight and my journey and my my mission to advance this territory. So I'm not sure that there's dissonance and disconnection in my mind around what I saw and what I envisioned for the future of the Virgin Islands. And so that for me is personally, as an individual, not judging anyone's individual, way of being, but for me, there is dissonance.
And so that is my concern. My concern is, we've seen we want to make our parade we want to make our whole festival better for so many different reasons, right? This could be a boost to our economy. This could be something great because our economy is suffering home, right? And we got to come home, Deanna. We got to leave and we got to come home because we're bringing different ideas and ourselves, right? Back home. And even though we're in their home, we still care about home. That's why we're doing this, right? And we still want to be a part of home, even though that's a great thing about festival to me. No matter where we go in the world, when festival time comes, everybody want to go home. When we're in college, when we want to go home, we want to bring our children home. We want to go village. We want to have these experience because deep down, we all want to pass our culture on to our children. We ain't trying to walk away from the culture and be like, we want nothing to do with it. So the thing is, how do we do it? Because now we have to remember, our children are being exposed by internet, by Facebook, by phones, by all these mediums. And that is why we seeing these performances. When you watch a simple video, a simple calypso video, a simple reggae video, that's what you're seeing in these videos, And when you watch African videos too, it's the same dance. This is the dances that we are seeing. Living in a time where we're doing we got the, and you, me, and Debbie and Eve ain't gonna behave like that, right? God forbid our children don't behave like that. But I can't say that because my children ain't grown and they're gonna do what they want to do. But I saying, right? How do we move forward? Because we have to be careful that we beat down the people them who actually did participate, that actually did come home and invest in the parade and want to come back. But if we cause a divide in St. Croix, right? what am gonna happen? The divide is
it's not about, like, for me, it's inviting people into a conversation. It is inviting people into a conversation.
No, I'm not saying us. I'm not saying us.
I'm not talking about us. I'm saying that part of why this is great. This is the starter. This may be a starter of a conversation, but you never get to resolution unless you talk. You never get to resolution unless you share diverse perspective and opinions.
Right.
And so for me, the way you get to the final sort of like the end goal, whatever the end goal is if there is one, is you invite people into a conversation. And I remember when I came back from the parade, and I called Debbie and I'm like, I just want to talk to your children. Like, I want to hear what they're like. I want to hear all of their perspectives. And she's like, no, they're gonna mirror what you're saying. And I was eager to hear diverse perspectives on it because.
But I heard a lot of the young people saying that we were being old fashioned.
Yes. I heard some, and then I heard some that were like, that wouldn't be me.
I heard some Imani just said.
I heard more men saying that would be my daughter. I heard I asked a lot of men, or young men in particular, and they were like, well, I could tell you right now that wouldn't be my daughter. And I thought that was so
Raunchy.
He was one of, yes. But
Raunchy, what did you tell us in the meeting about would you have allowed your daughter to participate?
There's a reason there's a kids parade, and there's a reason there's an adult parade.
Or would you have had her?
There's a reason why they don't serve alcohol for kids parades, and not Santas for adults. Like, I respect everybody fed. Your eagerness to revel. I love that. Everybody go out there. My thing is why we don't need to introduce nudity to kids, because people are bringing their 6-year-olds and 8-year-olds to a carnival where you have a bunch of drunk adults. And if you're saying that's okay, then you're okay with bringing a child into a bar as long as they're not drinking. Like, there should be levels and limits to where you introduce kids into a certain environment. My opinion, everybody gonna have their own. Nudity, I don't have a problem with it. Like, I jam Juve in a pamper because I felt
he did. I see it on Facebook.
to like just go out and do something crazy. We did that, but at the same time, where it pertains to titties out, just a little string covering your vagina area, adults, your vagina or whatever. I don't want to say the P word because I think that'd be rude. But yeah, it's a different level of everything. It's like it shouldn't be there. The costume is not the problem. You could wear a costume. Your legs could be out. Your stomach could be out. Your arms could be out. But why your breast nipple gotta be out? Why your vagina gotta hang out? To prove a point to who? What does that represent for your culture? That's no form of that is culture. You can't speak that. That's no form of culture. Because that's not culture. That's you wanted to expose yourself for who gonna get the most attention. Because that's what it does. You pull a TT out right now, everybody gonna say, oh shit, that TT out. But yeah, that's what it is. It's all about attention. What's wrong with, and again, you guys mentioned floats. You don't do floats no more. Floats used to represent the culture of the people.
It used to represent the troop, or where the troop was coming.
Yeah, the division between the troops.
The troops will represent a certain, area or something of your culture, your capital, your island's board, or your national pawn or some shit. Like, it's going to represent something. We ain't got no floats no more. You just got trucks with alcohol and people wilding out. Yes, you're free to do what you want. Everybody free to do what they want. But we have to remember what it was about, what got us here,
Do the committees, this is my question because I don't know. Do the committees, do you have to go through the committees to be approved for costumes and present your plan of what you're doing to the committees? Do the committees have some kind of guidelines or some form of control to help facilitate these things and bring these things into place?
they are
And that's why
involved.
we're having this
But at
conversation.
the same time,
Exactly.
the committees are involved, but at the same time, people just modify.
But can
You
I
have
just
no
say
control
something?
of that until it hit the road, and then you see like, oh shucks, this
Someone on
was
YouTube.
modified and the rest.
Sorry, I can't get to all the comments because there's a lot.
Yeah, and I can't get to my.
I feel so bad that we can't get to them. But in answer to you, someone wrote no.
So let me just ask a question.
You know what?
So part of like I was
That the committees doesn't have like a plan or guidelines because
I think I did, but
they used to. The Christmas committee used to have one when you have strong leaders. When you have strong leaders, when the leaders don't have a conflict of interest.
And that is where I want to go. And I hate politics, so don't get me politics.
Listen, I am at home. Like you all have the luxury of sitting in your houses, up in like wherever you are. I am at home, so I'm gonna back out of any conversation that you think like will get me in trouble. Okay,
but this is what I'm saying. If we having a carnival next year, we know we're having a carnival next year. Do we not have a plan and a goal where we want to see things? Troops have to enter, they have to pay. We need to see this. We need less of this. We need guidelines. And if you don't follow the guidelines, there has to be penalties.
Obviously, if it has had this progression, obviously the attire is not part of the guidelines, right? If each, because one of the other issues that I know,
or it is,
there was or maybe it is, but maybe it is, right? Or another thing that I noticed is like there was no formation. There was no. That was one of the things I used to enjoy going to the parade to see, like everybody, forming the lines, doing, and there was just mass frenzy as far as I was concerned, right? And who could do whatever gyrations better or whatever, but it was not. There was no formation or nothing. And so again, like you said, we don't know. So we can't assume.
We don't know.
But obviously the guidelines are very muddled.
Let me just say this. So just from a really simplistic way to look at it in terms of like my critique, right? Is that I was an English major, right? So I'll never forget one of my first like creative writing classes. We had to write a 1-page, synopsis of an anthology or something we'd read. And I remember this girl came in and she had I had this whole page, and I filled the whole page up and I wrote this whole thing. And this girl came in and she had 5 sentences. And it was the most powerful sentences, right? She had the shortest, piece, but it was so powerful. And I was like, oh, when I get older, I want to be able to be creative. I want to be innovative enough to write like that. And so when I was looking at it, I was like, where's the imagination? Where is the creativity and the innovation? What's the uniqueness that that was for me the part of it that I would say is my overarching kind of critique of the actual entire parade, not of the actual the attire of the each troop. But the overall parade was where is I just saw, I don't know who posted that was it the Bahamas? They were dressed like the women warriors from Wakanda. And I was like, well, where
we used to do stuff like that.
We used to do stuff there were clowns, there were the cats. I remember in St. Thomas had they used to have the we're the ones with the whips.
We're the ones that used to throw the whip for real,
right?
I used to be afraid and start crying.
Yeah,
right.
And it was I'm where's that? And I'm I feel we are. If there's anything that's sort of shrunken, we've shrunken in terms of our ability to be creative and to be innovative
and to stand out.
Yeah, so that for me would be
somebody mentioned Marie mentioned that there were guidelines and guidelines were, but if there are guidelines and they're not followed, then there should be penalties.
Yeah.
Because we can't just put out guidelines, tell people to follow them, they don't follow them, and then there is no penalty, right?
Right.
But again, a lot of the problems sometimes
following the guidelines, and that's what you have to pay attention to. The troop does follow the guidelines, but again, everybody has their own
interpretation.
way of doing things. Because we'll switch up their costume. They're gonna take off here and put on here where they feel like. The
Well, a
problem
tongue is a tongue. A
it comes
tongue is
down
a
to
tongue.
your country.
Yeah, but it's
Really
all
have
it's not
a
like I
rule to nudity.
it's all
Because
connected, and part of like what you all don't experience here is I sit and I sit with nonprofits. Like that's where that's the space I work in civic sector, and I work with organizations that are I mean what they're doing to support like vulnerable populations. Women are vulnerable populations here, vulnerable population here in the Virgin Islands. And when you look at, I don't know if you look at the Facebook consortium on an almost sometimes daily basis, the number of domestic violence issues that you're seeing here it boggles the mind. It's we are at crisis level in terms of like how women are being treated in relationships and domestic
Right.
affairs. And I just think like everything is tied together, right?
Right.
And so we talk about those standards, right? Those standards, like, are we as a society being thoughtful? Like, that's just it. Are we being thoughtful about how things may be connected?
Yes.
And
we are not being thoughtful.
Right. Well, these are the forums.
For deeper conversation.
Yes, because we are not being thoughtful because we don't know. Some people simply don't know. Some people, that is the behavior that is accepted. There is no problem with the behavior, right? But if we help them to know that this is what it affects, because if you got 1,000 people, like I think one troop was like 1,200 people. Well, 1,200 people wasn't behaving poorly. It was just a few. But then everybody, it was just a few. When we really sit down and think about it.
But even if it was a few, if it was one, if it was all, it's still for me, I think it demands some interrogation, some
it demands some, like, yes,
how much of this is connected to what we're seeing in terms of the other not so festive and the happy parts of our culture, right? And our way of living here in the Virgin Islands. And so for me, I would invite people to have a deeper conversation about this. I would invite our policymakers. We talked about guidelines, and like this is an issue of leadership, right? And so what are the things that we as a society have to step back and to interrogate and to really like excavate a little deeper to understand, like, is this just like fun and like, it's once a year and everybody wants to be free and whatever? Or is this directly tied to some of the other parts of our society that are not so pretty? And are there things that could be done to ensure that, number one, women are, and for me, it's just a matter of safety. Like people were laughing about people being passed out drunk after Juve. And I was like, how dangerous is that? How dangerous it is that for women in particular, to have been passed out drunk in an environment like that. Like that to me that's scary to me. That is a public safety issue. That to me is not just fun. That's not fun and revelry. And I think that demands some
and even like when you said at the end of that picture that I saw, and again, this is not the first time
I didn't see a lot of pictures. I really didn't look at anything really.
I saw a picture with a lady bent over with a little boy who couldn't have been no more than 6 or 7 years old, holding on to the back of her. And all I'm thinking of is, what message is she sending? And this is in the public. So it's not even, Lord only knows what happens in private. I don't know what his relationship to her was, but I'm saying, what are you already instilling in this child? And again, I'm a foster parent of therapeutic children. I understand the ramifications of people behaving poorly in their homes. Deanna said to us in a meeting that she was walking down the street and someone's family member, a female family member, was encouraging someone in the parade, their family member, who was also a female, to go on what list while she takes a picture. I mean, again,
again, these are individual cases.
Yeah, I get it. I understand what you're saying, but it's still a microcosm of what is actually going on, because then what we saw would not have happened.
But
so
what I'm saying is, what I'm saying to say that is like Deanna said, This is a leadership problem.
No, this is a home in your house problem.
but here's the thing, Debbie, you can't do anything about what people are doing in their home.
No, I know that.
Legislate
I'm
what people are doing in their home.
relational.
But this is what happens on the streets of the U.S. Virgin Islands, on public streets, can be legislated. Like that is
right.
That is
and these committees, Michael Muller said, we as VI people don't follow rules, and that is true. But there has to be some farm. There has to be. You have to have some penal.
I'm a Virgin Island.
Right.
Yeah. Well, there has to. If you are penalized, nobody. Look, how much of us get a speeding ticket? I mean, I get a bunch of them until I was like sick and tired of paying them, and I was like, I'm done. Right? There, you can't just set a rule and then expect people to follow it, because it just doesn't happen, right? There has to be enforced. Rules have to be enforced. Now, Deanna, you said something that I want to address real quick. You know, we're talking about, I believe this is how Pinky look at this whole situation. Now, it was a lot of buts. There was buts. It was a lot of buts all over the place, right? Because this is but. I was like, they had a float and it was like 5 but, and it was just in the face. And I was like, wow. I don't know if this is what we are doing today. We have just decided, look, we are claiming who we are as women and we are being free. I don't know if we are. Look, after the Renaissance, and I again, we keep saying everything is connected. We have to remember everything is connected. After the bubonic plague, people went crazy, you know. People came out and they went wild because they were living, they survived, and we just came out of COVID and it was our first carnival. We as women have been repressed sexually for so many years. Are women now claiming this is their body? They're going to do whatever they want. They're going to show whatever parts of their body. I don't know, because it could be on a subconscious and it could be conscious. I have no idea. But like I said, it was a lot of buts, right? And I was like, wow. I was looking at the Brazilian parade, and I think even though they don't have on them, I think they don't have on a bodysuit. To me, it looked like they had on a bodysuit that were holding. It wasn't flesh. I don't think we could do that because we might be too hot in St. Croix. I don't know, but they were indoors. I don't know. Okay. I haven't been to their parade. I just were watching it on things, so I don't know. And maybe the time of year it's not as hot. I have no idea. But I'm saying these are the things then that we have to look at. We have a problem with our women. We're having a problem with domestic violence. We have to embrace people and meet them at a place of love and understanding and compassion. And that's my fear. Because we were raised differently, so we have different standards, right? But everybody wasn't raised with the same belief system.
Right.
And so you
like
know.
Said, and like you also said, I think that we need what is very important is the festival committee and the policymakers and the lawmakers to really have a conversation and allow people to be involved in it, because I don't even know how they get chosen for it. But I know that there was a lot of displeasure with what went on. And again, there's a lot of great things. Don't get me wrong, because like Pinky said, we saw it virtually. We felt like we were a part of it because we got the opportunity to see it live, right? But we do need to change the things that bring, I don't know how.
Even if I think when we were little, if I remember correctly, because I did not like the end of the adult parade when I remember as a child. The end of the adult parade used to be scary to me. I was afraid of the end of the adult parade. And it was when the Mokajumbi and the Indians them and the wild stuff came at the end of the parade, the beginning of the parade. So we know how to leave the parade grounds. My aunt, well, I used to go in the back, but I used to be crying at the end of the parade. So because I was afraid, even if we do that, because again, we need rated PG and we need rated R, because every adult doesn't have children. Every adult is not going to the parade to enjoy it with children. We have adults that have families, we have young adults, we have teenagers. how do we make this for everybody's enjoyment, but also for safety?
We can't do that. We can do that. It's just,
Right.
it requires
It's how.
conversation.
Right.
And how.
Conversation.
Right.
And Deanna, one of the things that you said in our meeting was that we also have to find a way to monetize positive things to be able to bring people in, because I think a lot of people were, and again, this might be a younger people's mind. They couldn't wait to come home so that they could wear these costumes, right? But you can still be creative and you can still bring money and economy to the islands and to these different carnivals, but do it in a more constructive way. You know what I'm saying? And of course, this is not something that's going to happen overnight. I had shared that video with Vivian Ebison and I think it's Sandra Gerard, and it was really enlightening to hear them talk about, what it was really created for, what each thing meant. Because a lot of things about our parades have changed. We used to have one time in Christiansted, one time in Frederiksted.
Right.
Everything happens in Frederiksted. It was very different. So there's a lot of things that changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Juve time have changed. Because the thing was telling me that earlier. Because it was safe for safety reasons.
Right.
And now we have two Juve, because before we didn't use it, we got to Stanley.
Several Juves. It's not just
right. So we got to Stanley Juve for the Stanley, and I think that's what we need to also take into consideration and incorporate. Like, it's different people having different appetites and different desires to see different things. So again, maybe the costumes them they're gonna be to the end of the parade where the children them don't have to see, and because they're gonna cry. Because I was crying when I was afraid the Indian them son. What?
Well, I again,
Eve wanted to say something. Sorry.
I was just saying that the beauty of what we're doing is we're bringing up the different viewpoints, and we have to have that conversation and incorporate agencies and groups like Women's Coalition, who, I've been gone from St. Croix for 27 years, even though I visit regularly, but they look at Roger's face. But I have roots, aunts, uncles, house. I have a whole bunch of stuff still back home, and they could tell you about the domestic violence situation home. And I believe, like you also said, Pinky, the rules and regulations and stuff changed so that they could have the different Juves because of the safety, right?
Right.
As these said, when you start tying in the society's issues, the unanticipated, unintentional consequences of the way we're doing things. We are a small island. We're in a huge city and all this kind of stuff. Everybody know everybody. As a matter of fact, as an aside, one of the things I just found so refreshing moving up here was I could wear the same thing to church, to work the next day, because I'm dealing with two different groups of people.
And they're gonna see you.
Yeah, you know, see me in Maryland at work and things like that, But home, everybody know. Look, people used to know I was on St. Croix before I even got to St. Croix. And things like that. But anyway,
so it is small. So, and that's why we're saying we can make the change if we want to. And again, it is like our last time that we were on, it's important for us to have the conversation. It's important for the powers that be to have the conversation as well. But it's about implementing, right?
It is.
So our hope is that this has opened up the discussion even further, because like I said, I saw a lot of posts talking about this. Even a gentleman who was wearing something that I guess in his mind, I don't know his mental state. I don't know what, but he was dressed, inappropriately. And my comment that was, look what he saw. So what does he think it was anything different?
Or normally it was norm. Exactly. He thought it was a social norm.
Right. So we just got to find a way for us to do it better, because like Deanna said, it's about elevating, right? And elevating doesn't necessarily mean we have to go back to what happened in 1960 and 1970. We're in 2023, but we can
Right.
find creative, unique, positive ways to still incorporate family, community, food, fun, music, all of that stuff, right?
And revelry.
Revelry.
Right. Debbie, I wanted to add something before you close about that.
Go ahead.
Oh, schools. Our schools need to get more involved with the children.
Yeah.
Our schools need to get more involved with the children parade.
Correct.
Lucian had put up a post that was saying, because this is also a discussion, do we need to merge the kids parade with?
Obviously.
Absolutely not. The children do not need to be exposed, and they need their own space, right? So the schools need to be involved, and the school into the parade to make the children parade a better parade also. And the adults need to support the children parade.
Correct.
And if we invest in the children parade, we invest in the children, we give the children what they need, then the adults too can also get what they need. But we have to start in the schools by educating the children, and the schools need to come together as one, instead of this, this whole Christian said, we's one island. Like Eve said, we's a small little tiny island. We're not no city. There shouldn't be no Frederickstead or Christians. There should be one island. It should be one parade.
Why?
And we do
Why?
And we do it, I want to finish, and we do things in the different cities. I'm not saying we put everything in one tongue and everything in a different tongue. Yeah. I'm saying we do both. We have a festival in both tongues, because Frederick said just have a bigger street. They have more things, parking, blah, blah, blah. If we just open up the festival to the whole entire island, look, I is Middle Island. I'm from Mobiju. I never get into even though my family's hillsiders, I still Mobiju, hillside, and Mobiju, whatever you call that. I for both sides. Right. Both sides do stuff, not just in one tongue, but in both tongues. And again, schools. So I think this problem that we are looking at is bigger than the walking up. I think it's bigger than the banner and the cocking up. It is a leadership thing, and it's getting the whole island and everybody involved to make it better, boost the economy, because the economy needs the help. It's a lot of money that could come in during this time. If we could see this opportunity for what it is, based on what I saw the other day, we could take this to other levels. Mm-hmm. We can, if we do it the right way.
Exactly.
Well, we definitely got a lot of exposure. And I credit all of the different platforms that streamed it. And so as a result, like we're saying, if the powers that be really have a sit down conversation about how we can do a lot more tastefully, I'm sure that they could bring in even more money.
Yeah.
And get even more.
And I think that, Debbie, maybe not say, I'm always really careful about whether it's tasteful or whether it's inclusive. Right. And I think that, like, for me, the test would be that the children and the adults parade work together. That would be the test. Right. How do you make that happen? Like, that exercise of creating an event that is inclusive of all of our society would be such an incredible test for us.
You have a part one and part two.
And that to me would be like sort of a driver for how we do this in a way that is inclusive of everybody and everybody's needs and wants and, desires for that event
are met. Well, again, this is just to start the conversation. I definitely want to thank everybody who commented. I'm asking again for people to definitely subscribe and to our Love and Enlightenment USVI channel, because with these platforms, you never know what can happen. And we're always streaming on both platforms. I definitely want to thank my sissy, D. James.
Oh, me.
my little older sister. That's what I call her, because she acts like she's older than me. I want to thank Evadne Rogers, Peaches. I want to thank my cousin, my baby cousin, Ryan, Ranchi, and
That's good, yo. No more baby. There's no baby here. Lady,
that's true.
we'll
A
always be the
6'5" baby.
baby.
He's a 6'5" baby.
Oh my
But
gosh.
I want to thank you as always, and definitely thank you, Pinky, for us having this conversation. And I'm going to try my hardest to try and answer some of these comments. But I definitely hope that if nothing else, this conversation goes into your home, goes into, again, affecting change with the policymakers, so that 2023, 2024 Carnival is bigger, better, more beautiful, more unique,
Amen.
and be closer to our culture.
Mhm.
So, thank you all.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you.
See you all next week. And yeah, we still got COVID, so y'all please be careful out there. Take care. Bye.
Okay, bye.